To all who rest here, we say, your example of sacrifice will never be forgotten. As we face the security challenges of the 21st century, we will display your unshakable determination, your sacrifices.
Every year, the last Monday of May is set aside for all Americans to remember military servicemen and women who gave their lives for this country. While few of us can begin to understand the courage it takes to make that ultimate sacrifice when answering a call to duty, the battle wages on for many who return home from the battlefield. Our first guest was one prepared to make that sacrifice. He delivers a riveting first-hand account on this Memorial Day with the release of his book, Among Heroes, a U.S. Navy SEAL's true story of friendship, heroism, and the ultimate sacrifice. Let's welcome Brandon Webb to MidPoint. Brandon, thanks so much for being here today. And again, as many have said, please take this from us. Thank you for your service.
Thanks for having me, Ed.
It is an absolute pleasure. When people say to you, Happy Memorial Day, and it's said an awful lot, does that irk you a little bit? Because I have military friends who really don't get along with it, and even I tend to think you shouldn't wish somebody a happy Memorial Day. There's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But I think that the spirit of the statement is maybe more of a thank you for your service. So, I'm okay with it.
Should we really just spend a little more time perhaps reflecting on Memorial Day? Because it seems like maybe even the current generation sometimes loses it. You hear Memorial Day, Veterans Day. Some people don't quite know what the two and what the difference is between them. So we really do need to educate people about your friends, your service, and what people went through.
Yeah, and I was hearing earlier about, the issue around always remembering the sacrifice. But to me, it's more, remembering the sacrifice, but also making sure, I think every citizen in this country has a civic duty to make sure that the sacrifice that the men and women have made since 9/11 have not been in vain. And you look at what's happening in the world under President Bush and President Obama, you have a very schizophrenic foreign policy, and as much as I believe in the mission and the stuff that my friends and I went and did after the Twin Towers fell in Iraq and Afghanistan, I truly believe we made a big difference in disrupting the terrorist networks. But it's important for me to reflect today and have people ask themselves this question, what are we going to do to make America a better place, make the world a safer place, and how are we going to hold our leadership at home more accountable to make sure that my friends and a lot of men and women that serve this country did not die in vain.
Let's talk about that for a minute, because you mentioned the schizophrenic foreign policy that this country has right now. How insulting is that to you, to this day, that through all the administrations, the different presidents, the different time, the different lawmakers, that even now we seem to have Republican candidates for president who seem to be pulling back from the Iraq War. They're talking about the past instead of talking about the future. That in itself is insulting to a lot of vets that I've spoken to.
Yeah, it's frustrating to say the least. When you look at today, I run a media business, and when you're writing a business plan or setting our yearly objectives for the business, it's very clear to everyone from the bottom up to the very top. And I think we have a situation right now in this country where nobody really understands what we're doing in the Middle East. It seems to be we're running around putting out fires with no clear strategic objective. And when you don't have a plan that can be easily understood by not only the people in the military, but also the people back home who have to get behind these initiatives with their votes, I think it's a dangerous situation, and it really plays a big part in the overall instability we see not only in the Middle East, but in Ukraine and in North Africa as well.
Brandon, is there any doubt in your mind, you served with some brave men and women, but today, if we were to take American forces, put a serious force, let's say, and I've been told by some 10,000 on the ground, put them in there, let them go to work, let them do what's needed, everything else be damned, go in and kill the bad guys and clean them out. Do you have any doubt whatsoever that an American force like that could get the job done and at least bring some stability to Syria, Iraq, and the different places where we face all these killers?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that we have our military today is one of the finest fighting forces we've ever had on this planet. The issue is around commitment. Are we committed? And once, if people knew that we were committed for the long term in the Middle East, I think we'd see a very different situation with Iraq and Syria. And you look at the Iraqi regulars, there's just no incentive for them to stay and fight. But if we were committed to the long-term goal over there, and everybody knew that, and it was very clear that we were going to stand behind that commitment, I think you have a very different situation in the Middle East today.
Let's talk about that commitment a minute, because Ashton Carter comes out and basically says that the Iraqi military there, cut and run, not able to do it. And again, as I pointed out a couple of minutes ago, that's what a lot of people have wanted to be said for a long time, that they simply don't have the will it takes in order to get it done and defend their country. When you look at them as a man who was a professional soldier, do you look at these guys, this military, and say they're just a bunch of cowards?
I wouldn't say they're a bunch of cowards. I'd say there's a big issue with leadership. And again, I go back to the basic incentives. Really, what do these guys have what are they risking their lives for at the end of the day? And when you have a leadership void, a lot of the military leadership now on the side of ISIS, not to mention, the billions of dollars of weaponry and equipment that we left, just kind of left the keys in the ignition when we pulled out of Iraq. A lot of that same equipment and weaponry now in the hands of ISIS. You have a very fragmented Iraqi military, weak leadership, and a lack of incentive for these guys to really get behind their country and put up a fight.
Brandon, I got about 2 minutes left here. Who needs, in your opinion, to grow the bigger spine? The Iraqi military and the people there defending their own country, or the American politicians here who need to understand what it takes in order to win a war and not have to send a lot of soldiers to an unnecessary death?
Yeah, without a doubt, it's the politicians back home, and regardless of whether you're Republican or Democrat, we as a citizenry need to really start holding these people accountable and questioning, these very unclear strategic objectives overseas and almost non-existent plans that we're running around with these half-baked objectives. And we're losing some of the generation's finest men and women, and that's what does irk me, reflecting on this situation on Memorial Day, because I truly believe that I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure that my friends that I wrote about and among heroes have not died in vain, as well as a lot of others in this global war on terror. So I think without a doubt it is the politicians back home that really need to put political objectives aside and personal gain and really think hard about what it is to serve this country and put careerism aside for a second and say, look, we really need to get serious about solving this problem of radical Islamic terrorism, because it is a big problem, and it's a matter of time before it comes knocking at our doorstep back home, and that's what frightens me.
I only got 30 seconds left. In a few words here, what is it that you hope people take from Among Heroes?
Yeah, I wrote the book to honor my friends, these men, and their legacy, but also, the way they impacted my own life in a positive way. You are who you hang out with, and just knowing these amazing men and taking away these traits, I hope people read the book and share the story, because the kind of people that these 8 men are, I think, people have a lot to learn and take away from the book. So I really hope that they read the book and share it, because it's incredibly important that we don't forget the sacrifice that these men and women have made.
The book again is Among Heroes, a U.S. Navy SEAL's true story of friendship, heroism, and the ultimate sacrifice. Brandon Webb, want to thank you for the book, want to thank you for your time, and again, thank you for service to your country.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, it is my pleasure. Stay with us. MidPoint will continue.